Hey guys, it's IcyNewYear, and we're going to talk about Don't Starve. If you haven't played Don't Starve before, I want to start out by saying I highly recommend the game. It's super cool, and I've had a lot of fun with it. But I do have a few issues, and that's what I'm going to talk about here. One of the really cool things about Don't Starve is it doesn't give you much instruction. It's all there in the title. Don't starve. You wake up on an island, some old dude's playing an instrument at you, you get up, and you're just left there in the world. That's one of the coolest things about the game. The game just looks at you and it's like, hey, player, why don't you just go play with some stuff? But what's this do? I don't fucking know. Why don't you try it out and see what happens? Just walk around, you're like, hey, this looks cool, let's play with it. Awesome. Oh, I found a flute. What happens when I play the flute? Nothing, but I dance real cool. Let's do that again. One thing the game does a fantastic job of is kind of guiding you without giving you any explanation. You're told, don't starve. You're on an island. You see a carrot. And you're like, I wonder if I can pick this. Oh, I can pick it up. Wow, now I can eat it. It's great. The biggest thing I'm trying to get at here is that what Don't Starve does best is exploration. It puts you in a world, gives you little to no guidance, and just lets you explore all these systems it has going. And there's so many systems. I mean, you run into the craziest stuff, like, oh, okay, so my sanity is getting low. Whoa, all the rabbits turned into these little beast creatures. What does that mean? Or, I got a razor. Can I use it on this buffalo? Oh, I can! And there's just so much to the game. And none of it holds your hand throughout it. And I love that. You are encouraged to explore the world and explore these systems with no explanations. But you are punished harshly for not understanding them. So, as an example, you've been spending the entire game picking up carrots and food and ripping other stuff out of the ground and taught this is a good thing. Ripping stuff out of the ground is a good thing. Then you go down to a cave, and yeah, maybe you probably shouldn't be in the cave yet, but how are you supposed to know you found a helmet with a light on? Ah, damn right I want to go in a cave. So you've gone down to this cave and you see a plant, you pull it up, just like the rest of the game has taught you is a good thing. And this big giant plant monster pops out and kills you. And you're dead. Permadeath. That's where Don't Starve falls apart for me. Now, before you go on about, calling me a whiner or saying that I'm a filthy casual, I want to point out I play many games with permadeath. I just don't feel that it fits in Don't Starve. To illustrate my point here, I think I'm going to compare this with another game that has a heavy exploration feel and permadeath, and show why it works there and why it doesn't quite fit in Don't Starve. So we're going to talk about Splunky. In Splunky, there is a huge sense of exploration. When you first start the game, you are thrown into this world, you're going through a small tutorial, and then you start running into a bunch of stuff you've never seen before. Oh, I found a freeze ray. I wonder what that does. Oh, I found a teleporter. Let's try oh, I just killed myself in a wall. There are tons of toys and tools and monsters to play with, all of which have their own things you need to learn about them to successfully defeat them. Where Splunky goes right, that Don't Starve goes wrong, is that when I decide to play with something new in Splunky I've never seen before, I have not devoted 3 to 4 hours to getting this particular playthrough to where I'm in a sustainable spot. Splunky is a quick game that you play from start to end. It can be long, but the average run is going to be fairly quick. And when you die, you start a new run and you try again. It's not a game where you're going to be spending 3, 4, 5, or more days, real-world days, building up a run. It is something you sit down, you play, you win, you die, you stop. Don't Starve, on the other hand, you need to build up your resources, build up your base, build up what you have available to you to be able to efficiently explore these new systems. You're investing a huge amount of time getting yourself set up. And then you're asked, hey, here's a system that you've never seen before that might kill you instantly. Play around with it and figure it out. And for me, in the back of my mind, there's always that thought of, if this kills me, I have wasted 4 days of playing. And that is a sacrifice Splunky never asked from me. So I can tell you the full turning point, in my opinion, of Don't Starve, when I realized that this was a problem in how I played. The meat bulb. I was doing a Let's Play, and I had built up a nice, successful base by playing very cautiously, and then I was walking on a path, and I found a meat bulb. I had never seen this before, and I had no idea what it did. I picked it up, and I was terrified to do anything with it because I didn't want it to kill me and set me back to square zero. And I realized when I finished recording that episode where I hadn't done anything with the meat bulb, I was considering going and checking a wiki to see what it did. And that was it. That was the point the game fundamentally changed for me. The moment I was thinking, I should probably check the wiki to see if this is going to kill me before I play around with it and figure out what it is. The game has now put me in a position where, for me to be comfortable continuing to play it, I have to kill the fun. Because the big fun of Don't Starve for me is exploring these systems and figuring out how they work on my own terms. You know, going into a cave and seeing what is in this cave and figuring out how to deal with it without outside help. And the moment that I become too scared and too invested in my world, and there's too high a risk of immediate death for me to be willing to play around and figure out a system on my own, to the point I'm considering going and reading what this does, essentially killing all the enjoyment I was getting, that is when the game starts to fall apart for me. Okay, and now, to jump back and start being a little fair, we should talk about the things that make the game not true permadeath. There are a couple resurrection things. So, number one, there's touchstones. Those, if you don't know, you touch them, and when you die, you pop back up there, and they break. They're one-time use. There are 2 of them in the world. It should be noted I'm talking about standard generation, not custom generation. Alright, disclaimer over. The other 2 are meat effigies and life-giving amulets. These are both items you can create and use or place in the world, and they'll give you an extra life. With meat effigies, it lowers your health by 30, I think, when you make one. So, you know, it gives you an extra life at the cost of making the life you have more frail. And life-giving amulets, you equip them, they heal you, and if you die while wearing one, you come back to life. So, you know. So yeah, there are ways to bypass the permadeath, but the 2 creatable ways are fairly, well, reasonably late game stuff. And the touchstones are a limited time thing. And there it is. That's my issues with Don't Starve. It's a fantastic game with amazing exploration, so much to explore and play with and everything. But the deeper you get into the game, the more punishing it is to continue to explore. The few ways I can think to fix this is I believe there needs to be a penalty for death. I'm a big fan of death penalties, but permadeath I just don't think fits in this game. I feel permadeath is a thing that is kind of a go-to to add difficulty to a game and isn't necessarily always the best thing. It could be as simple as when you die, you start at a random point, a la Better Than Wolves Hardcore Spawn, and you have to work your way back to what you've built up. Or start up a new base, which would further strengthen the exploration feel. I don't know, there's a lot of different ways I think this could be fixed, and you guys should leave in the comments down below whether you think my opinion's completely full of crap, and if you agree with me, how would you fix Don't Starve? Thank you all for watching, and as always, don't starve.